hand the meeting over to Craig to share on hope.
Thank you, Ian. I am Craig and I'm an addict.
Craig.
Yeah, thank you, Ian, for asking. And thanks for arranging this. There's a few people missing today that I've seen all the way along, and it's quite funny because I'm looking out at the room and you can't really plan what you're going to be looking at. It don't really make no odds what you think. It's always going to be different, and it's actually quite nice to see some new fellas here, and every other person here has been in that same situation. I think I looked earlier on, 9 months and 15 days clean today. And so 9 months and 16 days ago, I was fucked. And when I came in, that's exactly what I said. I didn't identify as an addict. I said, I'm not saying that, I'm fucked. And as I got brought in by family, I'd known about this stuff was out there. But I fought it, and I just, do you know what I mean? It says somewhere in there like, may have a drug problem, but yeah, that's sort of what I thought. I thought I was just greedy, had a drug problem, and do you know, that's where I was at. I walked up the stairs to my first meeting in Chelmsford saying, I'm not an addict. I'm not going to be like them people, when I got told, shut up, and for once in your life, sit down and listen. Something in some of them readings, some people say they hear God in there and that scares them off, you know, and whatever, but there was bits in there, and the first share, there was something in it. I didn't come in clean, and I didn't stop using that evening. I used a little loophole till 12 o'clock, it weren't a new day, and I went home and I took loads of magic mushrooms and smoked some weed, and I thought, yeah, right, and then something inside me just, there was a desire to come back. I heard something and I thought, it's just, what is it? What is that then? They all looked all right in that room. There's people that I was with a lot of people yesterday that was in that first meeting, and one of them people was, I think he's just 11 years clean, 50 years old, and he's got a story, do you know, and I said to him, I was like, I could just come and sit in this meeting tomorrow and say, oh, fucking hell, if he can, anyone can, and, you know, like, but it's, something's kept him clean. It's this stuff, if you keep coming back and you work it, and there's suggestions, and they work, do you know what I mean? I'm petrified of going back out and using, because the place I was in was just, I'd given up, I had no hope left. But it was more than that. It weren't just the drugs, and the more you come in, and you know, there's the suggestion of doing 90 meetings in 90 days, and I was almost quite rebellious by doing it, because I didn't used to do as I was told. I couldn't listen, never have been able to, and there's that suggestion, 90 meetings a day, and I got told it's a meeting a day for 90 days, and my cousin actually who got me in, she said, she was like, I'll be so proud of you if you do that, and I was like, is it a big thing? I thought, fuck it, I'll do it. And then quite quickly, do you know what I mean, I got to 30 days, I got my 30-day keyring in this room, and I was texting everyone, telling everyone I see, I was like, oh, fucking 30 days clean, right? And it was big. And on that day, I took my daughter out for dinner. It was just after her birthday, I think, and we planned it. I was going to come here. I had to make a lot of allowances to do that 90 meetings. I did more than 90 meetings in 90 days in the end. I did 100 odd. Because just something in it, do you know what I mean? It kept me clean. The people in here, I had to turn to people at times and be like, I'm fucked. Like, I can't do this. And they were like, why can't you do it? I was like, oh, just, you know, I just can't. They were like, you're doing it though. So I just kept coming and kept doing it. On day 30, I started doing step work. And the first question in there is, like, what, on the way I do it, is, like, what does addiction mean to me? And it stumbled me, because already in 30 days, my perception of addiction had changed. And I could sort of see this turnaround of what I viewed an addict as, and already that idea, like, I am an addict, was creeping in. Still weren't there, still didn't quite get it. 9 months in, I'm more aware now that I'm an addict than ever, and that problem isn't anything to do with drugs. No one else is to blame. I'm not to blame, do you know what I mean? We call it a disease of addiction, and it is like that. Whatever that means, you don't need to understand it. It's the same as God pops in there. You don't have to see it as a certain thing. It's almost just have to just go with it and listen, and do you know what I mean? Just make your own ideas of things. No one's telling you what to do. There's suggestions there that if you follow them, this stuff works. It's all very alien when you start, and I don't know if it ever. I speak to my sponsor that's got 14 years, and he says himself, do you know what I mean? There's no sort of, you just keep doing it and you stay clean and your life gets better, and it's almost that sort of simple, but it ain't easy. Sometimes the biggest thing I struggle with is myself telling myself, I think it says in there, you know, that view of what we see in the mirror, like the fact that when Ian asked me to do this, and I'm like, why would you ask me? What can I say? And people come up to me and tell me, oh, you're doing so well. And I'm like, my head's not telling me that. But every now and then I can do a little, 9 months in is quite a good time. It's quite a chunk of time. When 30 days, a week was impossible. 9 months in, there's quite dramatic changes. And a lot of that stuff is, you can't measure it. It's just the internal stuff. Being able to react first thing in my head with a certain feeling, anger, resentment, whatever, then look at where that could lead, what my reaction could do, and then just being able to go, nothing to do, mate, and just turn the other way and just leave things and not bother. But yeah, like, to really, the fear I've got with going back, and again we say the allergy of it, is when I use drugs, I don't want to stop, and the reason I don't want to stop is because I don't want to feel a certain way, and that's why I use drugs. It's easier for me to do drugs, but once I do drugs, I don't ever want to stop. I just want to fucking keep going, and it don't matter if I have a little bit, if I have a lot, what I've got, I'll consume whatever I've got, and I'll say, there's a couple of drugs I didn't do, I stayed away from, because I've seen the devastation that in my family. But then even recently, alcohol, I've realised, my mum's brother died when I was young from alcohol. You'd call him an alcoholic, but that disease of consuming, and that killed him. He drank himself to death. So, the most socially accepted one, you can go in the shop and you can go in the thing, is actually probably the most one I've seen danger with. But I've seen family in that prison, the effects of it. But that almost led me to believe that what I was doing was okay. And then 9 months in, I can see I came in with a couple of bags of clothes, no money, lots of debt, broken relationship, non-stop drug using, drama, trouble for the last 20 years or more. I haven't been to jail, but I've caused a lot of, I've been in a lot of crime, dangerous situations that could have led it. Jail, yeah, lucky not to. Death, nearly. Institutions I wouldn't have gone, do you know what I mean? But where my head was before I come in here was, I felt like drugs was saving me. They would have been keeping me alive. That was a necessity. I had to keep doing drugs because otherwise I was nuts, and my head would say, it was like a little thing in your head, kill yourself, do you know what I mean? I was Googling ways to kill myself. A couple of weeks before I come in, there was a moment, and I was working near there the other day, and my head was telling me, just go and do it. And I wanted to go and sit in my car. I was just thinking, how can I do it? How can I die? Ways I could kill myself without my kids finding out. Waking up in the morning, just pure dread. Trying to get to sleep, not sleeping. That alarm going off, and it was just like, fuck, I'm here again. And then it was just a constant battle in my head of just not wanting to be here. And from a young age, it's not really, I've heard so many stories in here that, do you know what I mean? It don't really matter. I started young, drinking. First time I got pissed, I could just remember just thinking, wow, like, that's different. Like, and I've been around a lot of drink. It just seemed like the thing to do. But yeah, it never felt great a lot of time. But it changed how I felt. It made me feel like, but then I was sick a lot. I'd fucking wake up not knowing what happened. But then straight away that desire, I just wanted to get back to that place. I was very quick to try a lot of drugs and things and dabble my way through, you know. We had a lot of death in my family, I was getting arrested a lot when I was young. A lot of things, you know, to sort of run away from, and that weren't nice for kids to go through. And I already saw quite young that, if I feel like that, I can do drugs, I can run away from a problem, I can shut my feelings down. Didn't know that's what I was doing. But I'm a liability. Whenever I put anything inside myself, I'd drink, drugs, whatever. I'd just hurt people, cause trouble, wake up with fear, fucking that sort of, what have I done? What happened? Don't remember. Did I actually say that? Fuck. Like, money spent that I couldn't afford. But yeah, it's like, I had kids very young and I was with my partner. And we both went through it. We both found a place in society of being in pubs, both being a bit mental. We got a lot of praise because I've brought up two beautiful children that, do you know what I mean, that I've sort of been around. But then by the time I got in here, it's almost that realisation that just being there weren't really enough, that I've put them through a hell of a lot, and I was sort of very unaware quite how much, but yet really I knew. It was like that feeling was there that I hadn't done enough. But I've kept my relationship with them. But last year was one of them moments, one of them years, after a lot of years, a lot of trouble, a lot of avoided trouble, potential trouble, do you know what I mean? I sold drugs on and off for years. A lot of situations, it sort of come to that head where I ended up in the biggest situation that's ever happened in my life, and I ended up getting stabbed and nearly dying, looked it straight in the face. But the situation when I came in here it was his fault, it weren't my fault, it was all him. And then you look at it and it was just another situation, another place that it took me, another, do you know what I mean, another route of what my addiction, places it took me, the situations I got into, where my addiction, that's where it took me, that's where it caused. But in the incident, I weren't the only one who got hurt. My son was there, 16 years old, but then I look at it now and he was in the pub with me at the time. And around that sort of stuff, around people, around places that no one would start out their career, do you know what I mean, of drinking a drug, thinking that some of the things that were becoming acceptable, no one would say, oh yeah, it's acceptable to have that with your kids. But I actually used that situation as a bit of a badge of honour, do you know, and people be like, fucking hell, what, and your son was there? Yeah, me and him. I've managed to get away because he was there, he saved the day, and it was like, but people would sort of talk about it as if like, oh yeah, you're so brave, you're so whatever, yet really it drove me into being a shell of a person, do you know. I could be out and about around people and they'd go, oh fucking hell, let me see your scars, let me see it, and I'd be like, yeah, oh no, don't talk about it. Yeah, I'll go on, oh yeah, we'll talk about it. And it was just a shit show really. Last February, do you know, I went into the doctors and I remember sitting there thinking, he was talking to me and he was diagnosing PTSD, fucking depression, anxiety, ADHD. But I talked about everything except drug using. And then I left that room at 11 o'clock in the morning and my head was on me going, go and get some, no, I don't want to drink. Go and get some gear, no, I don't want to do it. Before I knew it, I was sitting there drinking beer, sniffing gear on my own. No one else there. That was the first moment that day I spoke to the doctor and I said to him, I was like, I'd lost all my, I couldn't really walk up the street very well without being out of breath. I had no strength in my body. I lost a lot of weight, but that internal stuff, that where I was at, I just I'd crumbled away into nothing. And I said to the doctor that day, I said, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to recover. I don't want to rebuild. I don't want to start again. Do you know what I mean? That geezer's fucked me, and that blame was still there. Do you know what I mean? But then sitting there sniffing gear, a mate of mine come round and I repeated it. I said, I don't want to be here no more. And then that got hold of me. That was February, and I didn't get in here until September. But that next lot of months, there's a few things I point at where I just, people coming up to me, people that I would say, cool, they need a little bit of help, was telling me like, mate, are you alright? Do you need to get help? And I'm like, nah, don't care, fuck it. And that's how I didn't care anymore. I didn't want to be here. And then it got to sort of September 21st last year, 20th, and I came in here. And like I say, I weren't an addict at that time. I was just, do you know what I mean? That all the events of that year had been a problem. But coming in here, it made me really reevaluate everything. This step work is beautiful stuff. You start getting into it, you start to change your way of thinking, and you start to see the problems that you've had, and you start getting a bit of acceptance and understanding of what it means and why you got to where you are and what. And do you know what? That finger turns around, you stop blaming people, you stop justifying the things you did, and you start taking ownership of it. I'm doing step 4, which is the boogie one. Everyone's scared of it, no one wants to do it, but yet there's a lot of people around that are doing it at the minute, and I tell you what, it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever done, because it's took away that me holding on to stuff and going, yeah, but it's all their fault, it's all this, do you know? And when you do that, that kitchen talk, that getting on it, like, nah, yeah, but he did this and then I did that and she said this and fuck her, fuck it, all that stuff, you don't get rid of it, do you know what I mean? Because everyone's got that story, but you start writing stuff down, and the way it's done is pucker, you can't get away from it, there's nowhere to hide. And I've written stuff down today. I've been doing step work this morning, briefly spoke to my sponsor, you start, like I say, you've got nowhere to hide, you start to write down stuff, and the best thing about it is it asks you what your part in stuff is, and sort of why you felt the way you did in stuff, and you sort of turn the way you think around, turn stuff on its head, and you start looking at yourself, and you start looking at how other people have been affected by the way you've acted. You stop blaming people when you realise that you are in control. That's what I'm seeing, is that I realise I am in control of what I do and my actions, and things have been going on lately, and I go to react, and I just turn away from that reaction, and I don't see drugs as an option anymore. I don't always find it easy to sit with feelings. I can do really good stuff and my head tell me it was shit, but then actually if I reevaluate the situation, like the things are beautiful at the minute, stuff is really good that's happening in my life, my relationship with my kids, with my son in particular, it's just amazing. He's 17 and he could be on such a different path right now, and by me doing this stuff, it's took away that sort of argument of, well, look at the way you live, Dad. Like now, I stay clean, I try and do everything as suggested, do you know what I mean? That you could do it your own way. I don't know, I listen to people that have got time and what they've suggested, and I've got a massive fear of going back out there, do you know, because there is other places I can go to, there's further extremes I can go. I was pretty extreme, and when I spoke to my sponsor early on, I sort of had this little justification of, yeah, but I didn't do this and I didn't do that. And he's like, mate, there's people out there that have been in and out of jail that have used the drugs you haven't used, and they'd look at your story and go, really? Fucking, you're nuts, do you know what I mean? And people have said that to me, that I look at and think, so this is the thing in here, I think, is don't look for the differences, look for the similarities, and a lot of that is it's not what you've done, who you've done it with, it's the feeling behind stuff. Do you know what I mean? And the fact that there is a whole other world. You don't need to use drugs. You don't need drugs. Cause a lot more. My perception was I needed to use drugs to get by. And now I look at it and go, why would I ever use drugs? It seems insane. But I still go to meetings nearly every day. I let myself have a couple of days off sometimes in a week. I've got a good sponsor that I speak to regularly. I keep in contact with other addicts. I try and reach out to newcomers. I keep my face around. You can go to anywhere in the country. I've been to the other side. Furthest I've been is the other side of London, but walked in. And I remember walking down the street, going to a meeting in Portobello Road. I was getting all a bit lost, and I was like, oh, it's all busy down there. And then sort of walking past where it said it was on the map. And then walked up the road, and the geezer was stood there with our green and gold book in his hand, and he turned around and he was like, yes, you're in the right place. Walked in this building, down these little stairs, up the stairs, back of the room, looked in. You've got the same posters we've got here now, the same people talking the same stuff, and you can literally go anywhere in the world and this stuff's still there. I'm a very happy customer from what I've got so far. I've got no intention of going back. I'd like to hope that someone's took a little something away from there. I could talk all day, but I will leave it there.
Thanks, Craig.